Hey everybody, welcome to Across the Ditch NC. My name is Laura and I'm so glad you're here today. Today is going to be, I guess you could say, our very first fall garden tour. I wanted to give you an update on everything that has been planted in our garden and how it is growing and progressing. So let's take a look. All right, so here in our pallet beds, we have our onions, our bunching onions, starting to sprout up. Some of our plants are looking a little rough right now because we had a pretty hard rain last night and early this morning, so they got beat up a little bit in their young seedling stages, but they will get better here in the next day or two. I have some daisies growing right here. My absolute most favorite flower. This is the kale that my husband planted. It's coming up and doing pretty well. Now let's go take a look at the backyard garden and the raised beds. All right, so the first thing I'll show you are the rutabagas. These are the ones that I transplanted, and then these are the ones that I planted by seed. So they're all doing really well. We'll walk over here. Chickens are being crazy loud. Our peppers are still growing and thriving. Probably harvest some more of these this weekend and dehydrate them and grind them into some more cayenne powdered pepper. Basil's still holding in there, doing well. I'm gonna dry some more of that out this weekend too. The cabbage I planted, well, one of them is doing fair. The other two have been annihilated by bugs. When you're planting your fall garden, your little tender seedlings that you put in there are susceptible to the insect pressure that is still going on with the warm weather at the time. So it is recommended to cover them with some insect barrier to keep them from getting eaten up, like that guy. Or at least, if you're doing organic gardening, you can spray it with something like neem oil, or if you're not doing organic gardening, you can use something else. All right, let's take a look at this bed right here. It's doing fairly well. We've got a couple of seedlings that haven't made it, but this is my cauliflower. Once again, I failed to cover this up with insect protectant, so some of my seedlings have been eaten by bugs. But with my next round of seeds going in the ground, I'm going to make sure I cover all of my plants up really well to keep the bugs from eating them. But then here are the beans, the random beans that have just popped up that reseeded themselves off of my trellis. But I'm just going to leave them and see what they do. Maybe we'll get enough beans to have dinner one night off of it. Here's some of my sugar peas planted on the trellis. A whole bunch of random beans growing in the walkway, and more of our sugar peas. So hopefully they'll make it up this trellis and we'll get some good peas before it gets too cold out. All right, so in this bed we have the Brussels sprouts that I planted. They're doing pretty well. They have a little bit of insect damage, but not too bad. I have one over here as well. But then we also have the broccoli that I planted, and it is doing fantastic. It is underneath an insect protection little hoop tunnel, and it is doing really well. I'm very pleased with it. There's also some rogue asparagus that has popped up in this bed, but all in all, the broccoli is doing fantastic underneath this netting, keeping it safe from the bugs, but still allowing plenty of moisture and sunlight to make it through. My cucumbers are not too happy. Some of them are dying off. I need to add a little bit of nitrogen to the soil, see if that might bring them back to life. But I think it's starting to get a little bit too cool for them to continue growing. Here is my husband's Carolina Reaper pepper plant. And we finally have some of the peppers starting to turn. So we're excited about that. My calendula's coming up. We'll keep walking. My okra is looking a little worse for the wear. We'll be pulling that out this weekend, making room for planting some more fall items. But we'll walk over here. Our Tabasco pepper plant's still growing lots of peppers, so we're going to keep it in the ground just a little bit longer so we can get as many peppers off of it as possible. But we'll probably be pulling it in the next week or two because it's going to be getting cold and staying cold, so it's not going to fare too well after that. Still growing some little bell peppers. Here are some more of our sugar peas. It's finally starting to crawl up the trellis, so super excited about that. And back here, if I can get in here without damaging a plant, these will be easier to get to once I pull these peppers out. But my turnips are popping up and starting to grow. Oh yeah, there's those two beds. The back wall of our backyard garden, our raised bed here, our sugar peas are popping up really well along this trellis. We have a few seedlings from the lettuce and spinach that we planted popping up. Squash is still hanging on. Maybe we'll get a little bit off of it. But we've got some more seedlings popping up from the lettuce and spinach, and then sugar peas running the length of the little fence panel. Have another insect protection tunnel here over top of my lettuce that I planted. This is the Coastal Star romaine lettuce, but I'm gonna try to pull this off so you can see it is growing. I am probably gonna pull this tunnel off soon and put a little bit taller one up there so it can get a little bit more light and a little bit more rain so that lettuce can keep on growing. But you can see it under there doing well. Salad bowl lettuce, growing good. And then going down the side raised bed of the backyard garden, my carrots, when I planted them, I think it was my first or second planting video for the fall, and I put my board over top of them. We were having remnants of a hurricane coming through, and I think even though I had that board protecting them, it just rained so hard, I think it washed my carrot seed out. I've only had a few stay and pop up, but not very many. So I'm going to try to replant these carrot seeds and see if maybe I can get a crop in before it gets too cold out for them to grow. But these sugar peas going down this back fence panel are doing exceptionally well. I absolutely love looking out of our laundry room out at the garden and seeing fresh greenery growing. There's the broccoli again, doing well. We'll walk up the side here. I don't have anything planted in this area right here yet on this side, but here I have lots of radish. These are our golden radish. They'll be like a yellow color. And then my champion radish, which is more of the traditional radish that people think of, the little red globed radish. Random green bean plant. I'm gonna leave it, let it grow. And these little guys popping up, I just realized they're popping up. This is wasabi radish. I am super excited for that. It's supposed to kind of taste like wasabi. True wasabi is not a radish plant at all, but this is a green style radish that is supposed to have a little bit of that wasabi flavor. My Gerber daisy throwing out another bloom for us. But yeah, there is our backyard garden. Doing pretty good. Show you guys my rogue tomato patch over here. beside the house. Some of my tomato plants are starting to show a lot of stress and disease, so we're going to start pulling these out, but trying to leave some of these plants as long as possible because they are completely loaded with tomatoes. Something got a hold of that one. Huh. But yeah, they're doing good. Have a few random radish planted in there. I'll plant more radish over here once we get the tomato plants tore out. But they are doing good. My garden spider is no longer here. I guess she did her thing and had her babies and then went elsewhere. But yeah, lots of tomatoes. My watermelon plant is done. It has given up. However, I do need to come out here and pick the last of the watermelon. I think I got like 2 out here that are good. My sweet potato plant, I think I'm getting ready to start digging in and seeing if we have any sweet potatoes in there, because it's getting about that time of year to start harvesting those. So I'm gonna try to start digging those out. And more wild tomatoes. Interesting thing about tomatoes, if you did not know, tomatoes are meant to be a vine. So everybody's used to seeing tomatoes grow up. But if you let a tomato lay down on the ground, it will actually root itself into the ground with the little hairs. You see the little hairs on that stem? Those are little roots right here. And if you let them lay down on the ground, they'll actually root into the ground and keep growing out, which is what happened here. Because when we had a storm come through, it blew over a plant, and because of work and a few other things, I was unable to get out here before it had rooted itself into the ground. So I've just left it to go wild, and I'm going to let it grow and harvest tomatoes until our first frost hits, and then we'll pull it out of the ground. There's that. Some mums today. Super excited. I love fall. Our pepper plant at the front is still doing pretty good. We've got a few peppers hanging on, but I think this one's about to give up. Rosemary, as always, taking over. You want to feel good about yourself? Grow rosemary, because you literally just put it in the ground. You don't even have to water it but like once or twice a week. That's a joke. If it gets too dry, water it. But rosemary is very hands-off. I literally put this in the ground and watered it like 2 or 3 times a week, and it has done this in 2 years, has taken over. This is pretty neat. These are our tomato plants that got eaten by the hornworm, and they had just enough leaves left that they started to grow again. And so we have some little tomatoes and lots of little buds on the plants that I thought were a total loss, but they have regenerated themselves, and I'm just going to let them go wild and keep growing, see what happens. These are the tomato plants that I transplanted about a month ago into the pots. They were small. They were, you know, not even 6 inches tall at the most, and transplanted them into these pots. I think I showed y'all that in a video, but look how big they have grown. They've gotten huge. So what I'm going to do this weekend, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to break off these little side shoots and add dirt into the pot, probably close to the top of the plant. I say close to the top of the plant, maybe 2/3 of the way up, so it can finish establishing that really good root base. And I'll show you in a video when I do that. But that way these guys can keep going and keep growing. Maybe we can get a few tomatoes off of them before our first frost hits. Super excited. The kids and I picked up a bunch of pumpkins today from a local farmer. So we're excited to carve them and harvest the seeds out of them and toast the seeds and enjoy those as a nice snack, and also enjoy just the beauty of the pumpkins. I've never been really good at growing pumpkins, but I still try it every year. show you guys an update or show you guys the progress of our second round of seed starting. Everybody is doing really well. So excited to get these guys in the ground once they grow up just a little bit more. All right, so that is a quick garden update. I'm not going to take you down to the big garden because I'm starting to pull the okra out, and that's pretty much all that's left over there. So I will show you the big garden once we get all those little seedlings that you just saw underneath the grow light. Once we get all those transplanted out, I'll show you around the big garden at our neighbor's house. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a blessed day, and please come back to see me again.